Hi, everybody. This is Dan Stolbarger. Welcome to this week's KFIR Middle East update. It's the week of June 13th, and we'll look back over the last week and see the news out of the Middle East. So before we get started, just a reminder, you want to grab the PDF PowerPoint that accompanies this YouTube presentation. We always start, you can get that either on the YouTube page that you're on, there should be a link, or just go to our website at holygroundexplorations.com. We start with our news bites. If I could just paint a picture to kind of have you think about as we go through this week's update, it would be a cauldron that's boiling over. Okay? So with that in mind, the Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant says that this is his quote, I hear our enemies boasting about weapons they are developing. To any such development, we have an even better response, whether it be on land, air, or in the maritime arena, including both defensive and offensive means. And then he makes the quote, if Hezbollah makes any kind of mistake, we will bomb them into the Stone Age. And we'll hear a whole lot more now out of Iran as well. Netanyahu, again, news bites, we kind of jump around. Benjamin Netanyahu is, again, if you've read his book, if you remember back his campaign, one of the major items that he wanted to accomplish was the normalization with Saudi Arabia, Abrahamic Accords. And Netanyahu said this week that, make no mistake about it, Saudi normalization would be a quantum leap forward. It will literally change history. And I know behind the scenes, much is going on regarding all of this. The leader of the Palestinian Authority of Fatah, Mahmoud Abbas, again, 88 years old, very much in poor health. The question always is, who's he handing the baton off to? And I have a feeling nobody at this point in time, but he's been unable to fulfill his duties dealing with his failing health. Again, I don't know how much longer he'll be on the planet. And when he goes, who knows who's going to fill that vacuum? Fearfully, I would think it would be Hamas. Somebody out of Hamas. We'll have to wait and see. And finally, Iran on Monday confirmed that they've been having indirect talks with the Biden administration regarding its nuclear program in Oman. And now, depending on who you want to listen to, Iran saying, we're not sure, we're interested. You can never believe that. But just the fact that we are negotiating and Israel's making it clear, whatever agreement that the U.S. may arrange with the Iranian nuclear program, it will not be binding to Israel. Now, our major articles this week, again, the craziness of the United Nations. The United Nations chooses Iran as the vice president of their General Assembly. Again, in a quintessential move which demonstrates what the UN truly is about, this august body that's dedicated for the peace and harmony throughout the world this week has voted Iran as vice president of the General Assembly. This, despite the fact that over this last year, Iran has murdered and executed well over 500 protesters. And again, really? For the Israelis, and you've heard this many times before, the UN's defiance against Israel you've got Iran, a member of the United Nations, threatening to want to wipe another member of the United Nations, Israel, off the face of the map. And so that seems like a good idea. Let's make Iran, let's give them the power of the vice presidency. Again, it should not be a surprise that for Israelis, the UN is simply utter nonsense, useless nincompoops, it's putting it nicely, or the United Nothings. Back to that cauldron boiling over with Israel and Iran. Prime Minister Netanyahu recently warned once again that the Jewish state might be forced to strike Iran's nuclear facilities. Again, there's some news out that Iran is getting close to 90% in terms of their nuclear abilities, and that's the red line for Israel. They will do something, and we are close. Iran's rapid nuclear advances are not going, it's not like it's behind closed doors. It's known to many. And so, again, Netanyahu, we're committed to acting against the Iranian nuclear program, against missile attacks, and against what we call a multi-front campaign. Again, singling out Hezbollah and saying, make no mistake, our eyes are on you. Israeli hawks is the next article. And I think it's important to note that this new government, most likely, Israeli security cabinet would grant approval for immediate strikes on Iran. Again, in recent weeks, we're hearing about this new supersonic missile that can reach from Iran to Tel Aviv in 400 seconds, supposedly able to avoid detection whatsoever. And once again, Iran it's not being hidden out front. Might as well paint on that supersonic missile target Tel Aviv. And again, they've come out and said that it will be able to avoid or evade the Iron Dome, David Sling, the arrow systems whatsoever. And again, that cauldron is just boiling. They're close to that 90%. A senior Israeli official to Israel Hayom, one of the leading newspapers in Israel, has stated that Iran knows that breaking out to 90% purity in uranium enrichment will result in an Israeli strike. The officials added that the U.S. and Western nations know that Israel has set this threshold and that Bibi's made it clear that this was Jerusalem's red line during his recent visits to the European capitals. And then back to this concept of the Iran and the UN. Just a few days after the regime had executed, and I can't pronounce their names, I'll give it a go, Mehrad, Fazeli, and Zaire. They've executed protesters for, quote, blasphemy. In the midst of this, they're rewarded by being appointed the chair of the United Nations Human Rights Council for the rest of 2023, as well as being handsomely compensated by the European Union. The British tabloid The Telegraph is quoted as saying, Iran's human rights roles is like granting bin Laden a Nobel Peace Prize. And if to underscore all of this, when they were just given the vice presidency of the UN, they went out and they executed 3 more men, Kazim, Mesharim, and Yag Abadi. And they executed them simply for anti-regime protests. And again, this was just recently published in the Human Rights Watch tabloids. That's the peace partner in the UN, right? Well, last up, Pat Robertson gone to be with Jesus. I'm sure he's thrilled. His legacy and love for Israel is well known. In fact, Bibi Netanyahu and his wife Sarah quoted as saying, "We're deeply saddened to learn about the death of Pat Robertson. And as the premier tweeted this week, he was a great friend of Israel, second to none." So that's our report this week. Just a reminder, we have a couple seats left on our Journeys with Paul Holy Ground Exploration Tour coming up October 1st through the 12th. We'll be going to, not in this order, but Athens and Ephesus and Philippi and Troas and Smyrna and Pergamum, and then Berea, Thessalonica, Corinth, and we'll end in Rome. Very excited about this trip. And again, a couple seats left. It's going to be a small group going out, and I'm like crossing those dates off the calendar. So if this is something that would be of interest to you, check it out on our website, holygroundexplorations.com. And then Israel 2024, Israel, and more of Israel. We'll be there for at least 3 different tours through the year. Our first one will be coming up February 21st through March 1st. Check it out. All the information once again on our website. With that, God bless you and shalom.